Good evening. My name is Anurima Bhargava, and I am honored to join you today as a chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, or USCIRF. I'd like to start by thanking you, Dr. Hugh H. Tran, and the Vietnam Human Rights Day Committee for organizing this event and for inviting me to speak on the occasion of the 27th annual commemoration of Vietnam Human Rights Day. For those of you who are unfamiliar with USCIRF, we are an independent, bipartisan US government body created more than 20 years ago by the International Religious Freedom Act, or IRFA. Our mandate is to monitor religious freedom worldwide using international standards and to make policy recommendations to the US President, Secretary of State, and Congress. USCIRF has 9 commissioners appointed by the President and the Democratic and Republican leaders of Congress, and our work is supported by a nonpartisan professional staff of around 20. USCIRF is separate from the State Department, but we work closely with its Office on International Religious Freedom, which was also created by IRFA. As an independent agency, USCIRF focuses exclusively on religious freedom and has no obligation to the US government's overall diplomatic, economic, or security relationship with a particular country's government. Moreover, at a time when it seems that there is so much that can divide us, our shared dedication to the fundamental right of freedom of religion or belief cuts across party lines. Therefore, I am proud to serve as part of this unique, independent, bipartisan body fighting for the freedom of religion or belief around the globe. Each year, USCIRF publishes an annual report describing religious freedom conditions in countries considered to be amongst the worst violators in the world. Under IRFA, the State Department is required to designate as a, quote, country of particular concern, end quote, or CPC, any country with a government that engages in or tolerates, quote, systematic, ongoing, and egregious, end quote, religious freedom abuses. USCIRF has consistently recommended Vietnam to be designated as a CPC, including in our most recent 2021 annual report. The State Department has removed Vietnam, however, from the CPC list since 2006. We made this recommendation because we remain concerned that systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations of religious freedom still occur in Vietnam. I traveled to Vietnam with the USCIRF delegation in the fall of 2019 and met with government officials, religious leaders, and community members. We heard about improvements being made, especially for established and recognized religious groups. Yet we remain concerned about government persecution against Hmong and Montagnard Christians in Vietnam's northern and central highlands. Local authorities subject these vulnerable ethnic minority communities to beatings, detention, imprisonment, torture, and forced renunciation of faith, and have refused to grant them household registration documents and ID cards that are necessary for simple living in a normal life in Vietnam. We also remain concerned that the Vietnamese government is using the recently enacted law on religion and belief to curtail religious practice by unregistered religious groups, such as the independent Wahao Buddhists, Unified Buddhists, Cao Dai followers, Catholics, and many others. We also learned of the ways that the law, as written and being implemented, adversely affects even recognized religious groups. USCIRF also continues to pay attention to the plight of religious prisoners of conscience in Vietnam. Last September, USCIRF celebrated the release of Pastor Adao, who USCIRF Commissioner James Carr adopted through our Religious Prisoners of Conscience, or RPOC project. I also continue to advocate for the release of Nguyen Bac Truyen, a Wahao Buddhist human rights lawyer who worked to assist prisoners of conscience and defend the rights of religious communities. Despite these challenging realities, however, the US government has consistently and persistently pressed the Vietnamese government to make improvements in human rights conditions generally and religious freedom specifically, since the normalization of relations between the two countries in 1995. The Vietnamese government has made modest improvements in religious freedom conditions over the years. We hope that trend continues. As such, USCIRF will continue to engage with the Vietnamese government and emphasize that it's in its best interest to respect freedom of religion, as continued violations of religious freedom will only prevent our two countries from forging a deeper, more constructive relationship today. Thank you again for this opportunity to address you. I look forward to continuing our collaboration to ensure that victims of religious persecution and violence in Vietnam are held with dignity and that one day all Vietnamese can worship freely and openly. Thank you.